Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Missy,
I'm
and
Monty.
this is my new model.
Oh, right. Sorry. Okay. Start again.
Hi, everybody. I'm Missy, and this is my new model. Isn't she pretty?
Hi, everybody. I'm Monty, and this is my new model. Isn't she gorgeous? I love her so much. And today we are reacting to the submarine went missing and missing. Like Monty, you can read. The submarine went missing and body parts were found a week later in the water. This one was suggested by a silent being, and we were asked to react to it. I'm like, what am I doing? Am I reacting? Yes, we were asked to react to it. So yeah, this is going to be a rotten mango for you guys. Yay!
Of which I know nothing about it, but I mean, it sounds pretty gnarly.
I
Gnarly? Did I just really say gnarly?
You did. Oh, okay.
Oh,
I didn't mean to press play, you guys, but here we are. Okay, it's gonna be August 2017. Okay,
you believe it's not an American incident?
I wouldn't.
That's okay.
Yeah. Cool.
We like non-American incidents too.
Yes, she knows very little about non-American incidences. She's more of an. Excuse me,
Well,
Stephanie. I'm
well,
talking.
I know some stuff about like British serial killers.
I'm just saying that your expertise is more American true crime.
True.
Yeah.
I do know a little bit about like British true crime too.
Yes.
A submarine goes missing off the coast of Copenhagen in Denmark. And I feel like with the recent Titan submersible that went missing, the whole world was watching that. They were following the story every step of the way.
Spoilers, it didn't go missing, guys. That one imploded. Very sad. Very sad.
And it kind of felt like history was repeating itself. Because 6 years ago in 2017, there was another missing submarine that literally captivated the entire world. And maybe it's the fact that when someone goes missing, we talk about how time is the most important thing. It is the only thing on our side. The first 48 hours are crucial. I mean, really, like the first hour, the first 12 hours are crucial. But with submarines, you're underwater. You only have so much oxygen. I mean, literally, there is a finite clock that starts ticking down the minute that you go under. Maybe that's why we're so fascinated and captivated by these cases. Maybe it's the idea of being
No. I don't like being trapped underwater. I'm not about that life.
My nephew was in the Navy, and he's on shore duty now. But he was on a nuclear submarine. Like the thought of him actually being on a submarine, like I try not to think about the fact that he's on a submarine.
Fair.
Like boats are scary enough.
Yes.
Like boats are at least above the water. Submarines are under the water.
Oh.
You
don't say.
I was trying to make my avatar look at you, but she looks the opposite direction.
Oh, well then look the opposite direction.
No. So now I'll look at the cat when I'm going to look at you.
Okay.
in the ocean that makes people morbidly curious, or the fact that so many people have gone on submarines. They've stated, once you go on a submarine, there is nothing comparable in the human experience. Because as you're going down, you hear the wind, you hear the waves, there's all these sounds, but once you're under, there's no noise. It's a different, I wouldn't necessarily call it peaceful, they stated, but it's a different type of feeling. You're completely isolated from the world. There's nothing there, just total isolation and sometimes total darkness. They said, truly, it compares to nothing. You're far away from home and you feel very alone. It's like a spaceship. And the idea that people could be trapped in a situation like that, it makes people emotionally invested. or the fact that in 2017, when that submarine in 2017 went missing, it was a homemade amateur submarine. It was
No way.
homemade. And the only
Homemade?
two people that were trapped inside of it right then and there were practically strangers to one another. They didn't even really know each other. So one of the two
All right. I've heard of homemade boats. But how the hell are you over there
Making homemade
making a
submarines?
submarine?
You know, what? I was going to say that wasn't the Titan homemade, but it was just poorly made. That's the difference.
Yeah, it was just badly made.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, you can register a boat as a homemade boat. That's a thing you can do, but, like,
Can you register a submarine as a homemade submarine?
I have no idea.
No clue.
None.
was Peter Madsen. He was the one that built
Madsen.
this amateur
Why does he
submarine.
look like a
was kind of
model?
a small celebrity in Denmark,
Oh.
and they all considered him like this eccentric inventor, this builder of all these crazy machines. He builds rockets, submarines. This is his third submarine. So he's got like a whole wild persona. And the other passenger was 30-year-old Kim Wall. She was a
Ooh,
world-renowned
she's so
journalist who had
pretty.
gone under with Peter to interview him about his submarine for Wired magazine.
What? So she's a journalist for Wire magazine.
She's a freelance journalist. I mean, I'm going to go over her life story, but her credentials are out of this world. I mean, I don't even want to say that she was a journalist for Wired magazine. She was working with the UN. I mean,
Wow.
this woman is so talented. And now, both of them are missing, underwater. And only Peter would come back up alive.
Ooh.
Kim Wall would be tortured, killed, and dismembered in that submarine. When authorities searched Peter
Goddamn.
Madsen's computers later, they found countless videos of snuff films of women being beheaded.
I'm sorry, I haven't even gotten that far in, but what was, like, his thought process on this? Because, like, only two people go down in a submarine, and only one person goes up. Like, you know what I mean? That's like, well,
Well, maybe-
obviously he killed her because only he came up. Like, it's
Well,
not like
it's
she could
also
run and
possible that-
escape.
You know, he could have said, I managed to escape, but I don't know how he would have managed to escape a submarine.
Sorry, I just saw your head go flying for a second. Okay. Yeah, broken Missy neck. You went all exorcist on us for a second. He was the only survivor. Okay. I guess. Okay. We can get serious now again.
Sounds like he had some very serious corn.
Corn?
And not. There were videos, there were films of women being tortured, their heads lopped off.
How did we get into that from, like, your head going exorcist on us?
I was going back into serious mode and
Oh.
talking about the thing.
Oh, sorry. I just didn't understand where the context was. I was like, what?
The guy, submarine guy, was interested in some very serious, gross kind of corn.
Where did she say that?
No, but it literally, she said there were videos of snuff films of women being heads lopped off
Oh,
and tortured.
I'm glad you paid attention because yeah. I was a little busy looking at a different screen.
So therefore, he was into some very, very graphic corn.
Yes.
Tortured, even burned alive. The same day that he went into that submarine with Kim Wall, he Googled girl decapitated agony.
Okay.
As always, full show notes are available at rottenmingopodcast.com. There are 2 documentaries on this case, and HBO's Undercurrent and Netflix's Into the Deep. I would recommend Undercurrent. A lot of Kim's friends and family worked with the producers, and her story was shared really well in the 2-part series, but I think the Netflix one it's very controversial. It is very chilling, and it primarily focuses on a ton of footage because right before Peter committed murder, he was having a filmmaker come into his workshop every single day and basically create a documentary for his life.
Interesting.
So there's just countless hours and hours upon footage of Peter just saying the most unhinged things, which at the moment, it didn't seem that crazy, but in hindsight, it's really chilling. And it's all kind of centered around, like, how could this brilliant inventor do this? So both were used as sources, as well as a bunch of other sources will be listed below in the show notes. And with that being said, oh, and one more thing. There is a Kim Wall Foundation that I will also link in the description, but we're going to come back to it. And her parents wrote a book called A Silenced Voice that will also be linked.
She's
So
so
with that being
pretty.
said, let's get into it. Kim Wall was born in
really
Sweden.
is.
She grew up in Sweden, like near the Sweden-Denmark border, and both of her parents were journalists, which I think is so interesting. So it's kind of like an insane life. It said that most of her childhood she'd be in these newsrooms. Like she's probably on the sideline reading books because you're like a kid, and all these adults are running around freaking out. She would grow up listening to her parents listen to strangers, collecting stories, and truly trying to get the heart of people, like trying to understand what they wanted to be shared. And I'm sure all of this affected her in a very big way because as she's growing older, she's like, I want to do that. Kim Wall stated pretty early in her career that she wanted to see how the world works. She said, and I hope that maybe one day I can learn enough to make a difference. And pardon my language, but she like did the damn thing.
Oh,
I think
good.
she is one of the most accomplished people I've ever read about. So she's an independent journalist that wrote about everything and everyone that she felt did not have a voice. She wrote for Harper's, The Guardian, The New York Times, Foreign Policy, Vice, Slate, Wired, South China Morning Post, The Atlantic.
Oh my gosh, there's so many of
Time
them.
Magazine. Her work has been translated into several different languages. She has traveled the world. She went to Sri Lanka to report post-war efforts. She went to Haiti after an earthquake. She went to North Korea.
Wow.
Yeah, she was one of the journalists that went to North Korea.
Okay. That is actually, yeah, I mean, not just anybody gets into North Korea.
No, not just anybody. That's impressive. Very impressive.
Very, very
It
impressive.
sounds like she was really well respected among her field, honestly.
And very accomplished.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Korea. I mean, when I tell you she wanted to see the world and make a difference, she did that all before she turned 30 years old. Just even reading her writings and her articles.
All before she turned 30. Damn.
She's putting us all to shame. All of us. Every single one of us.
It sounds like I'm reading someone that has lived 100 years on this planet. Like, just the way that she's able to connect with people and understand their stories is so admirable. She's got 2 master's degrees, one from the Columbia School of Journalism. She was a United Nations Press Fellow. She was learning Mandarin. She briefly went to the University of Beijing at one point. She went to college in London.
Wow.
She was literally an unstoppable human. I mean, like, her career, while it was short, it was incredibly prolific. Her professors at Columbia were so proud of her because they're like, wow, she's one of the students we're going to brag about. We're going to be like, I
went to
helped make
Columbia.
that, you know? And they
Right.
would say that she's so smart, so tenacious. And even though it sounds like she had been in all these dangerous environments and going to all these places where most people would be so nervous to go, like North Korea, she would never knowingly put herself in these situations and do something reckless. It said that Kim Wall had a maybe strong level of skepticism, as most journalists. But her whole thing was, okay, if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? And like, some voices just do not get heard. So she would go to these nuclear waste sites and report about climate change.
My name is Kim Wall. I'm started Pacific. The lady commercially supply ships on
Aww.
we've been reporting on the nuclear waste sites threatened by climate change.
She's such a beautiful woman, too. I know I keep saying that, but she just has like
Really
a
is.
energy about her.
They carve out like space
That just seems so sweet and caring.
I think it's really hard to not
I
deeply admire
agree.
someone like that. And also just really want to be around someone like that. One of her friends said her strongest memory of Kim Ball was they were both in Delhi, India. They're both working there. And Kim comes up to the friend group and she's like, hey guys, you want to try this new Korean place for dinner? And they all agreed and they met up with her, but she starts leading them into, and this is how she describes it, like a very dangerous part of Delhi. Like the part that every single person is like, don't ever go to this part of Delhi. Bad things happen in this part of Delhi. Don't go there. Like every city has their bad neighborhoods. She's walking them straight into the bad neighborhood. Kim's just leading the group, pushing through the crowd of people. She turns into this tiny, quote, rundown building, is how they describe it. And her friends are really hesitant, like, I don't think I really want Korean food that badly. And they follow her upstairs, and it's like, you would never believe a restaurant like that existed in there. It was just the most quaint, homey Korean restaurant with Korean immigrants that owned it. And just the amount of culture and energy that was in that tiny, they said it was the best Korean food that they've ever had. And they said that this incident really describes Kim. She really liked to bring light to things that you would never guess to be so fantastic. Like, that's the kind of person she was. So in
Aw.
2017, she's working as a full-time freelance journalist, which is, like, it's really difficult, okay? I mean, I would imagine being a journalist is already so challenging, but as a freelance journalist, you have to basically, figure everything out yourself. You've got to find the story, do the reporting, sell the stories. Your income is constantly fluctuating. But Kim is seasoned. She even had gone through these courses, like hostile environment training. So she was trained on what to do in the event of a horrible car accident, how to provide aid, what to do if she was being held hostage, or if she was kidnapped, or in like a big mob situation. And this case is so infuriating because I think the anger that comes with this case is that she was just trying to do her job. She did everything right. She was just trying to do her job. So summer of 2017, Kim is living in Copenhagen with her boyfriend. She's doing freelance work, and it just felt like the pieces of her life were kind of coming together perfectly.
Absolutely
And she told her
gorgeous.
friends
So
that
pretty.
she loved Copenhagen. She said it's so cozy. It's like, she grew up not too far away from it, and she said she was outrageously in love with the city. She's trying to figure out her future. It's a little daunting. It's a little scary, but it's working. And it just feels like when one thing goes right, everything starts kind of going right. So Kim's career, although it's already so successful, it was just about to take off even more. So she's living with her boyfriend, and both of them get a very interesting work opportunity that opens up in China. So they're like, let's do it. We're going to pack up all of our bags and freaking move to China. Like, this is insane. But she kind of knows Mandarin, so it kind of makes sense. And this is like the next step in both of their careers. So they tell all of their friends, guys, we're moving to China. And it's like this huge, huge thing. Her friends are like, we got to throw this huge going away party.
To imagine just being able to be like, I'm gonna go to China. That's where I'm gonna go live now. Oh, she's such a free spirit. That's so sad.
I love that for her.
I love that for her.
I don't love where it ends her up, but I love that for her.
I know. Oh, so sad.
Party. This is incredible. Congratulations. And the couple is so well loved. A lot of people were going to be showing up. But Kim is a workaholic. And she's like, okay, let me get one more story before I leave.
Uh-oh.
No
She
way.
should not have taken that one more
There was
story.
this man in Denmark that everyone knew. He was known as the Elon Musk of Denmark. I think it's quite of a stretch. Look, I don't know if being called an Elon Musk is a compliment to some people. To others, it's the worst insult you can get. But I think at least financially.
No, never mind.
Financially, it's a bit of a stretch
Fair.
for this guy.
Fair.
His name is Peter Madsen, and he was eccentric. People described him as being wacky. Other people called him a genius inventor. That's what they called him. But the truth is, the guy never really invented anything. He just built rockets and submarines. Those are all things that have already been invented. So he's just a maker of things, I guess. And he would do it on a very, very small scale. His whole dream was to put Denmark on the map of producing rockets. And he told everyone, why does the government need to fund rockets? If a civilian wants to build a rocket, they should be able to build a rocket. Like, they should be able to be an astronaut.
That sounds like an incredibly stupid idea.
I'm sorry. How should, well, Okay. Whereas, yes, I feel like a civilian should be able to, like, complete their dreams,
Okay.
to, like,
I
build whatever it is that they want to build. I feel like the rocket might be a little too much.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know?
That's a little Icarus too close to the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm all
Because,
for creativity and I'm all for, like, freedom. But a rocket's just,
like, maybe a model rocket.
yeah.
But, like, I feel like anything that's actually going to go to outer space needs to be extremely regulated.
Exactly.
You're gonna need
Exactly.
permits. You're gonna need to make sure that you source your stuff because, I mean, then if you cut corners, then you just end up with the Titan submersible. I'm pressing play.
Okay.
To be an astronaut. He wanted to be the first amateur astronaut.
Okay.
And build like the first amateur rocket company. Basically, everything he knew about rockets was pretty much self-taught. So he would give a lot of poetic TED Talks about not limiting yourself. Look, the guy was, yeah, he was wacky. I mean, you can see why his story appealed to Kim. And in fact, Wired magazine was like, yes, Kim, do the story. We're going to buy it. Interview him. Find out what this guy's shtick is. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Am I gonna live through this? Plainly putting it, we live, and you're gonna die anyway, and there's no way around it. Why not get the best out of life? And that's how I think of it.
Kim's friend said, when it comes to the type of work that Kim typically does, this is a low-hanging fruit for her. This is a walk in the park. I mean, she's usually going to hostile North Korea, and now you're saying, just go interview this weirdo. To her, I mean, she's already got her guards up. She's like not the type of woman to let her guard down. It's always up, but this is supposed to be an easier project.
A quick
So
one.
she had heard that he had this amateur, homemade, privately owned submarine. She reaches out to see if he's interested in an interview, and on August 10th, she went to his little workshop to do this quick little sit-down interview. So right after this, she's supposed to go to her going-away party that her friends are throwing for her and her boyfriend because they're about to move to China. But Madsen is like, hey, you know what? You want to go on the sub tonight? Like, the waters are calm. We should go. It's going to take like 2-3 hours.
Wait, the submarine is where is it?
Copenhagen. Yeah. He's like, you want to go? I mean, the waters are calm. It'll be great. I can show you how it works. You can do the rest of the interview, get pictures, whatever you need to do. I mean, she had already interviewed him. He seemed very normal and not that wacky of an inventor. I think that his reputation precedes himself. Not in a good way, but he's a little quirky. But it's probably because he's super passionate. She runs home and tells her boyfriend, hey, I'm going to go on the sub. Like, this is perfect because I can maybe even pump out this article before we move to China. Like,
Get a little extra money.
So she's very excited about her story. I mean, she's the type of journalist that gets really passionate about her work. She boards the sub at around 7:30 p.m. that night. And there is a video of them departing out, and she's waving to whoever is filming. Because, you know, it's a submarine. It's not a boat. So I imagine if people are at the harbor, they're like, whoa, like it looks like a cartoon. It's a big black tube with a little tower that you come out of, like a little tube that you come out of on top. And they're like waving by.
How big is it though?
It fits about 8 people, and I think it's like 8 meters. It's pretty big. When you look at it, it looks like it would fit more than 8 people, but I guess most of it is like the engine and stuff. So I would say maybe it's like a double-decker bus and more. Maybe like 2 double-decker buses. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
huge.
Huge.
And it's like
That's big.
painted in kind of like this splotchy black color.
Oh,
It just,
wow.
yeah. So I think that even the submarine itself becomes like this whole dark imagery for this case.
Yikes.
So there's a video of them departing, and she's waving, and she looks very happy and very excited. It doesn't look like she would have ever gotten into a sub with someone that was giving her any red flags. And it's not every day you go into a sub. And side note, this is not like the Titan situation. They're not going down super far. It's not like this impressive feat where they're trying to beat records or go where nobody's gone before or have only gone a few times. It wasn't like that at all. So truly, the risks of this were incredibly low. They're probably just submerging like 20 feet. They're like, we're submerged. That was about it. And everyone
Okay.
knew where she was.
It's
who
gonna
she
be
was with,
safe.
and
Supposed
he's
to
like
be
a minor
safe.
celebrity in Denmark. It's not this random nobody.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in Denmark knows this guy. Everyone in Scandinavia knows this guy. So she takes all of her precautions as usual. She even texted her boyfriend, and many would find these text messages very chilling later. But she texted him, "I'm still alive, by the way, but I'm going down now. Love you." He brought cookies and coffee, though.
She said that?
Okay.
The "I'm still alive, by the way" text message would later haunt a lot of people. Now, the whole submarine excursion and interview was supposed to take like a few
That's a
hours
bit of
max.
oh,
But when
that's a bit of a
I think we
strange
were
text.
both trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to pause it, and you were trying to pause it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because
Because
we were both like, that's weird.
I don't think I've ever texted you. I'm still alive, by the way, you know, in all the time I have known you.
No.
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
even
that is a good.
what?
Yeah. Silent Ghost question is, did she send it or him?
That is a good question. I have no idea. But
I mean,
it is a weird statement to make, you know?
it is extremely weird because, I mean, if she's always like, if she's always like checking in that way, like, hey, I'm still alive, if that's a normal thing for her, like I'm going
Well,
into this dangerous situation, but hey, I'm still alive.
she did like
Um,
go to North Korea and, you know, a bunch of other places that would be deemed, I guess, dangerous. So maybe it was something that she did whenever she was on like call,
I mean,
when she went to go do like a thingy. A thingy. You know what I mean? A thingy.
yeah. I mean, if she was 30 in 2017,
A story. Thank you. A story.
that makes her a millennial.
Right.
And we are sometimes known for our dark humor.
Yes.
So that is entirely possible. And I mean, if she's just, like, hey, I'm still here, I'm still alive, like, it could have been like a haha, like, I'm going on a submarine, and it's
Yeah.
like, I'm still alive. But if that was, I guess you would have to know her, but knowing, or at least knowing what the subject matter is and what happens to her, even though we don't fully know everything yet, but we know that she's gonna get murdered and chop 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 chopped.
Right.
That's that wording is
Ominous. Weird.
ominous,
Scary.
very weird and ominous. I don't like it.
I don't either.
And 10 p.m. pulls around and she's still not home. Her boyfriend starts to get a little bit concerned. She didn't even text him, so that's weird. He waits just a little while longer. Probably like all of us, he's probably trying to calm himself down and thinking of all these very reasonable, very rational explanations on why she...
So I know. So like I usually, if I'm coming back home from my dad, because it is like a fairly long drive from my dad's house.
Yeah.
I always will text you. And I mean, if at all possible, a lot of the time I'll just be on the phone with you.
Yeah. Because I
on
like
the
to
way
know
home.
that you're driving safe and,
Exactly. So like that's why the other day when you had your doctor's appointment and you were out doing stuff with your mom, I texted you to let you know, hey, I'm gonna go run errand.
Yeah.
Because like if I'm not gonna be here when you get back, I didn't want you to worry.
Yeah.
So that's just something that, people do. And so
Yeah.
like if I knew you were supposed to be home at a certain time and you're not texting me, I 100% am gonna start worrying.
I am sorry. Bonsai? Come here. Come here, puppy. Come here. It's okay. What is your issue? Are you having trouble?
Well, it's not supposed to rain.
I know. He's been doing this a lot lately. Okay.
I wonder if he isn't able to hear as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that kind of...
Yeah.
And that is true, Silent. She probably goes a lot of places where she doesn't have a signal. That is true.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more important when she says, I am going to be back by this time, or I'm going to be going to this destination and I should be there by this date,
Yeah.
you know, to basically have, oh, it's raining for you, Tanner the Gamer? Well, it's not raining here in Texas, or at least our part of Texas.
Yeah.
It's just hot. But
Yeah.
you know, if the boyfriend is like, you're not back when you said you would be, I would 100% start being concerned.
Yeah. Me too.
late. But when she's still not back and he checks the clock and it's 2:30 in the morning, he's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to call the Coast Guard because this is insane. So at 3:30, the Coast Guard start their search for.
Now my question is this a good Coast Guard or is this a bad Coast Guard? Because the last time we did something that had to do with some sort of vessel in the Coast Guard, that Coast Guard was shit.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Submarine. They sent 2 rescue helicopters, 3 ships. The Navy got involved in looking
Okay, good Coast Guard. Good Coast Guard.
Yeah.
for the submarine, and the submarine is called the Nautilus. Side note, it's often said to be the world's largest privately owned submarine, so not owned by a massive submarine corporation or a government military entity.
Oh, it is this submarine.
That's what they say, but if you've been listening since the start of Rotten Mango, we learned that the cartels had bought old Russian submarines to transport drugs. So I would say maybe it's like
This is
the
news.
most legally and openly owned submarine that are not owned by
That's funny. It's the most legally, openly owned submarine.
This
that's
is news
not-
to me. I didn't know they did that.
I didn't either, but maybe that's another episode of Rotten Mango we need to track down and watch.
It sounds like it would be
shadowy
one of the
entities,
first.
Okay.
It does, doesn't it?
organized crime entities.
Okay, but it's still considered big. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's huge, and now it's missing. And everyone had the same question that they had when the Titan went missing. How do you lose a giant submarine? How does it go missing? Who's aboard the submarine? What's going on? And how much oxygen do they have left? So we know a bit about Kim. Let me tell you a little bit about Peter Madsen.
Okay.
Peter Madsen calls himself the maker of extreme machines. He would go on these TED Talks and say some wild things like, what if you got a crazy idea that you wanted to leave planet Earth?
Hate
What if
it
you got the
already.
idea that you wanted to go to space?
Where he made TED Talks?
Yeah.
Wow.
People today, they go out age 25 and they get a pension. Age 25, they worry about what's going to happen when they're 65. The banks are telling us to think about that sort of thing. You can have a prepaid funeral today so that there's no trouble when it happens. I mean, what kind of a...
That sounds like a logical kind of world.
Which one? The one where we are worried about, what happens to
Well,
us when
I
we're
mean-
65, or the kind
I
where we go
mean-
out and live our lives?
Okay, I'm all for going out and living your life, but it is also a good idea to try to plan for the future.
Yeah.
Because if it's like, what's going to happen when I'm 65? Well, that means you're planning to live to 65.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that you'll be able to have money to cover bills and health expenses because we're in America over here.
Yes, that is true. That is
And-
true.
I mean, and funerals are expensive, okay?
From a very, I guess, negative standpoint, though, there's no guarantee you're going to make it to 65. So live your life now.
Well, yes, and I think that's the point this guy is trying to make.
And, I can get behind that point to a certain extent. Live your life now does not mean build a rocket and go to space.
Yes, because I'm sorry, I don't know anything about rockets, okay? I've barely figured out today how to get a little virtual avatar on a screen.
Yes,
without going
exactly.
without going completely cuckoo crazy.
Hey, he's self-taught on how to build a rocket. We're self-taught on how to stream.
Yes, but I feel like our streaming dreams are a much safer
Well,
way
I
to
don't plan on going out and killing somebody either. At the end of the day, the issue is not the fact that he built a rocket and went to space. That is a big accomplishment. The issue is what he did after he built the rocket and went to space and came back and, then built a submarine. That's the
Yeah.
issue. Not
And
alls, but I love it. I
it's
love
all
it.
just called bonus content.
Yes.
You know?
See if you come to. Wow, Monty, what was that noise that just came out of your mouth? If you come to the stream, you're going to enjoy the technical difficulties that I will then cut out.
We don't let ourselves live.
Excuse me?
Yes, like that right there. I'm gonna go back. There we go.
I think you made that video on cut out content. She did make some of that.
I did, yes, 100%. Because people asked for it, so that was on derailments. I didn't edit.
Now and again.
I feel really bad for my YouTube channel because I didn't edit any of the 12-hour stream. So they got like all the technical difficulties and everything, and they're not used to it over there.
Guys, I just dump my videos on my channel. That's just what I do.
Yes, I don't. I try to edit things out, but I haven't edited as of late, and I was just like, well, I did a 12-hour stream. They should be able to watch the 12-hour stream, so I'll just post it in like parts. And then I made a playlist so you could like watch it, in order.
In order?
Yeah.
What is going on with your eyes?
You know what? I was thinking that I think it is confusing my eyes for my glasses, and so she keeps like winking at people and blinking at people. Like, okay, if I take off my glasses, does she stop winking and blinking?
It's a Baldur's Gate 3 shirt.
Yes.
It's Gail's Diner on the back, because if you've ever played Baldur's Gate, on the back there's a pair of boots.
Oh. Yeah, pair of boots right there. You see it?
Yeah, there's a pair of boots.
I think you could have just turned around, but yeah.
I tried to just turn around, but it didn't quite work. But there's a pair of boots on her.
Are we good to press play?
Yeah, we're good to press play.
Okay.
We're good to press play.
Trouble when it happens. I mean, what kind of a world is it that we don't let ourselves live while we do it? Being aware of the fact that it has an end and we don't know when it happens can be a very strong motivation for life, for enjoying every second that we have of it, enjoying every second that we can use to tell stories, to enjoy the other people on this beautiful, wonderful planet. I just think it's so important to remember that we don't live forever and to spend that time remaining, that short remaining time, in a very best way.
It just upsets me because everything he says, 100% agree.
So good.
100% agree, but then it's just like muddled.
You, sir.
Muddled.
You, sir. Exactly. It's like we said. And it's like, you, sir, are a psychopathic murderer.
Yes. But like everything you say, I agree with, except for, the part where you murdered somebody. I don't agree with that. But beautifully said. I hate that.
You might be right, Silent Being. Maybe it wasn't premeditated. It could have been like an act of passion. A crime of passion type situation. Again, I don't know the details of it. He could have just been living his life to the fullest and be like, well, I've never done this before. Let's try this.
Yep.
Those are not the kinds of things you're supposed to. Those are not the kinds of thoughts that you're supposed to let work. You're,
Very
that's
true.
a bad thought. Those are
Okay.
bad thoughts.
I'm gonna press play, but dang it.
Take a look at this flying machine.
Yes, it's a beautiful
Now,
flying machine.
I'm looking at it in the sense of a sculpture. It's beautiful.
Oh,
It looks
darn, I just said that.
incredibly beautiful. I've always wanted to build my own airplane. I wanted it since I was a kid. I present to you the most powerful machine ever conceived by mankind.
Sir, that's not an airplane.
5, 4, 3.
No, but it's airplane adjacent.
I guess that's true.
It's like a step up from airplane because airplane only goes, so high. A rocket's gonna go even higher.
That is
So,
true,
yeah.
yeah.
2, 1.
And it defies belief. We had an incredible flight. This rocket is literally its history. We had the first time ever one of our rockets going straight up, aiming for a point in the sky directly above the launch platform.
He was very unhinged, but people liked it at the time. A biographer named Thomas said that he was the biographer for Peter Madsen. He wrote a book on Peter Madsen's life. Thomas said that Peter had a way of just making people excited. Like, he knew how to sell his vision, and the dream and his whole vision was not even just about him, but it translated to other people, and it was, you can do what.
People can be really good at manipulating those around them by saying what they want to hear or what they need to hear in order to get them to do what they want.
I need to know how it happened because so far I like him.
Where did
And
this
I
guy
hate
go
that.
wrong?
I hate
How did-
that. You know?
Yeah.
You want. You don't need government funding to create a rocket company.
He wrote this before the murder, or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He followed Peter Madsen around and wrote this book, and it was like this very heroic embodiment of
God.
almost this larger-than-life character. Madsen would often use his own story as proof. So Madsen grew up in a really harsh environment. His parents were Carl and Annie.
There it is. I wonder if at any point he had a head injury.
A head injury? Oh.
An interesting thing to note, his mom Annie was 36 years
Oh, Monty is the one in the white shirt with the glasses.
Hi, I'm the one with the glasses. See my glasses? Aren't they pretty? I love
And
them
I'm
so
the-
much. Okay.
And I'm the one with the brown hair and the Gail's Diner shirt.
Yes. Also, I have
No.
purple hair, but it's very light. It's light purple. You can see like little bits and pieces of it. Press play.
than their dad. Than his dad, yeah. And his dad, Carl, was brutal. Grew up in Nazi Germany, and he felt like the only way to communicate with his kids was to beat him. Like, you want to get something into your kid? Beat
There
him.
it is.
You want to get something out of your kid? Beat him. Like, that was his end-all, be-all. Oh,
Now, with that said, not everybody who gets beaten by their parent becomes like a killer. I'm just gonna point that out. But a
No, but it
significant
makes
amount of
trauma.
killers are beaten by their parents.
There's abuse. There's abuse.
Yes.
So it's definitely trauma. And trauma responses are
Trauma responses.
trauma responses.
only form of communication.
Nope.
Communication. Peter Madsen did not have a normal upbringing. He likened his childhood to growing up under the direction of a concentration camp commander. Eventually, his parents divorced, and Peter was sent to live with Carl, his dad. Which, I mean, it was really rough. Like, he was forbidden to.
Why did you send him to the dad?
Why? Like, why?
Was
Oh, and he's forbidden to talk to his mom. Brilliant.
Forbidden. His dad would not allow it. And this is very important later. It seems like his mom was the one that was nice to him compared to the dad. But maybe he felt like she was failing to protect him. This is a thing that I see a lot with male killers. A lot of the times the dad is abusive. The mom is also a victim of abuse, but she is unable to protect the son from the abuse of the dad. And instead of hating the dad, they hate the mom. It's very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. 100% that. Thank you.
That's a good picture
So-
that you paused her on.
It's kind of what happened to Peter Madsen. He did not take it out on his abusive dad. He hates his dad, but there's almost a level of respect when he talks to him. It's like, oh, we're just very different, and he was a very horrible person. But there's still that level of fear. With his mom, he said, I didn't really want to live with her anyway. She was as stupid as a cat. She didn't know anything. If that does not...
We got some
Okay.
issues with some female role models in the house at a very young age. Oh, it's already piecing together.
And I will have you know that cats are actually very highly intelligent creatures and can have the level of understanding comparable to a 3-year-old human,
Uh-huh.
indicating they understand what we are saying, but they choose not to listen like a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
But cats are not dumb creatures. Cats are very intelligent creatures. Thank you
I
very
think you're missing the point.
I just felt like I had to defend cats, but like obviously no. The point is that he has issues with women, particularly his mother and female figures,
Yes.
and that is I could rattle off a whole list of names of men who killed who had mom issues.
Yep.
Ed Kemper is at the top of that list, and so is Ed Gein.
That Kemper's a good one.
Yeah.
Moving on.
not sound like the origins of a strong hatred for women. I don't know what does, but we're still not there yet. We're still on the rockets, okay? He said that he was always interested in rockets. Like, he liked it at a young age. He kept pursuing it.
Okay, I'm gonna go psychological here for a moment.
Okay.
Is it entirely possible that the obsession with rockets stemmed from a deep-seated need to get as far away from the abuse as possible? You can't get much further than outer space.
Ooh. Ooh. You're breaking into some psychology books. I'm here for it.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. That was deep.
Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense. He just has this deep-seated need to get away, so he just becomes obsessed with being able to build rockets.
You
to
can't get as far.
away.
You can't get any farther than space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did a little bit of engineering studying, but most of it was self-taught.
I'm a maker of extreme machines, I'd say. I am originally educated a little bit as an engineer, a little bit as a naval engineer, a marine engineer. On a test day, I'll sit on a rock crying because it's so hard to organize people and to make it all work. And there's so much you have to think about, and you can be very, very alone in it.
4, 3, 2.
You can be very, very alone in it.
Yes. Yeah, I heard it too. Lots
Yeah.
of psychology going
Yeah.
on right now.
People in Antarctica are further away from civilization than people on the International Space Station. That's very cool. And I guess this guy didn't get that memo because he didn't want to go to Antarctica.
1, 0.
So he relies on people seeing his vision and believing in him and crowdfunding. But it worked, really. I mean, it worked to a degree. A lot of rich people believed in his vision as well. So he's over there with 3 submarines. The first one was Freya. It was 20 feet long and it could fit 2
Ooh.
people. Then he had
Freya.
Kraka. It was reminiscent of a World War II German sub. It fit about 3 people. And then his latest one, the one that was missing, the Nautilus, it could fit about 8 people. And
8
similar
people,
to the
wow.
Titan, a lot of the parts were just parts that you could buy at a warehouse. Yeah. And once he had those 3 subs, he starts getting into other things. He was asked by reporters like, Madsen, what now? Like, you've got 3 submarines. Are you going to build an even bigger sub? And he always had, Peter Madsen really wanted to be a main character. That's what I can describe about this guy. He would
So main
gaze
character
out
syndrome.
when people ask these
Mhm.
interview questions. And instead of just being like a businessman who's like, you know what, I think the company directive is A, B, C, and D, he would gaze out into the open air and he would say, I think I'm going to do something else now. I think I'm going to look up at the stars. He's talking about rockets. He wanted
Okay.
to build rockets. And
We were a showman.
keep this in mind. Anytime Peter is interviewed about his submarines, about his rockets, about his accomplishments, this is how he talks. It's almost in this poetic movie character way that people don't ever really talk in real life. It's like he's memorized a line and he's waiting for that perfect question, that perfect moment to blurt it out and make it like this motivational moment that you can
That's
put
so
in a
much
black and white
effort,
photo.
though.
Keep this in mind for later.
That sounds exhausting.
It does.
Putting
It
on a
sounds
show
so
all the
exhausting.
time.
Waiting for that moment to actually put on that show, that is so exhausting.
Yeesh.
In 2008, he becomes a co-founder of a rocket company called Copenhagen Suborbitals, and he said that he wanted to go into space with no astronaut training. One of the first devices they made was a centrifuge. It's like a stick. Imagine a stick sideways. One side has giant fire burst, and then the other side had a little carriage where he would sit in
It
and it
goes
would
so
just spin him
slow.
around really, really fast, nonstop. And then he was like, I'm training for space.
Ah, there we go.
Okay,
Fast. I don't speak that language.
Guys, his astronaut training was also self-taught.
Yep. I mean, but he
And-
did actually, I think, maybe go to space and come back. I mean, we saw it go up into the air, so.
I mean, Katy Perry went up into space without any training.
Yeah, but Katy
10 whole
Perry
minutes.
didn't build the whole rocket and, build the training center and, train herself. I don't even know if she did training.
Guys, it's amazing what you can find on YouTube.
Incredible! It's completely incredible. This is an incredible ride. We got to 6 Gs. I could see it on the instrumentation, and I choose to carry on up to 7 Gs. And I was effectively reaching my own limit.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a fantastic ride. Really.
He wanted to be up there with the stars. He did not want government funding. He wanted to build the rocket out of things that you could find in the local warehouse, and he was getting funded. So, I mean, he poured a lot of his own money into it. All of the money
That seems like such a stupid thing because things that are in the warehouse are not coded for the kind of pressure that you have in outer space or the ocean.
Okay, but if it's just you going down in your little rocket, you don't go down in a rocket. If it's just you going up in space in your little rocket, you're not hurting anybody else. But the second you start adding more seats, that's a problem.
Yeah, if you want to risk your own life
Yeah.
to go to space, that is more power to you. You want to buy warehouse supplies and build yourself a rocket? Yeah, that's fine. But when you start trying to do it commercially and then,
Yes, exactly.
it's one thing to risk yourself. It's a whole nother when you start risking other people.
Yeah, exactly.
to it, all of the money from his TED Talks. He's living part-time in his sub. He's crowdfunding this huge project. And as for the employees,
Oh, so he's just using the sub basically as
Started
a...
it. But go on, sorry.
He's using his sub as a houseboat.
He
I
is.
love that for him.
Love that for
this
him.
company, a lot of them were interns or volunteers. They were a lot of young people who had the knowledge, probably didn't have the credentials to get a job, but they had such deep knowledge of engineering. They were genuinely fascinated by it, and for whatever reason, it didn't translate academically, or maybe they didn't have the funds to go into that, but they would just volunteer. And it just, like, imagine how hard and how few people can work on rockets in this world. I mean, think about it. Like, the number of people that's like, I've worked on a rocket before, I don't even know.
Like a handful
Yes,
of people.
cheap labor. Exactly. Silent Being goes, so what I'm hearing is cheap labor.
Basically.
Not even cheap labor. Not even cheap labor.
Free labor, because interns don't get
Free
paid.
labor. Yeah, interns don't get paid.
Well, maybe some interns get paid. I think
Well,
they do
if
have
it's a
like
paid
a paid
internship.
internship, but I doubt that he paid them.
Yeah, they were just there for the experience.
They were there on volunteer basis, so.
Yeah.
How many there are in this world. So all these students, they would gather, they studied rockets for fun, and they started working for Madsen. And because he was getting so much attention, the biographer even followed Madsen around, started writing his story, his life story. There were other people, a filmmaker that was making a movie about, quote, Rocket Madsen, that's what they all called him. Her footage was actually used extensively in the trial and in the Netflix doc. But it was very strange, okay? Very strange energy at the rocket company. It was very invigorating, contagious. It's like a time capsule. They said it was like the Danish space age. It was exhilarating to be a part of something big, to see it all come together, and it just proved that you really don't need to be this corporate Fortune 500 company to make things happen. Madsen was not driven by the money. None of the workers were, and it's not like they were trying to sell the rockets later. They just wanted to prove they could do it. That was most people's passion. But Madsen had a different passion too. His passion was kind of telling everyone what to do. Here's what's interesting. He's not necessarily bossy. He's controlling. It seemed like he really wanted control, and all of that would be easily overlooked because he was so charismatic.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. The need for control stems from the absolute lack of control in his childhood and his life.
That does make sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
that does make sense.
And he's charismatic, so I'm hearing possible sociopathic tendency.
Well, I mean, not all charismatic people are sociopathic, Missy.
True, but not all sociopaths actually are murderers either.
And not all sociopaths are charismatic either.
True.
I feel like I said the same statement. Not
I don't
all
know, it's
people
fine. And
are
because he had this-
sociopaths. Not all charismatic people are sociopaths. Not all people who are charismatic are sociopaths. Not all sociopaths are charismatic. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Good enough.
Larger than life personality and reputation. Anytime he did anything questionable, it was chalked up to him just being quirky and eccentric. He was more of a cartoonish figure than a human, and he lived by cartoonish figure standards of human decency. I think people were just really impressed that he was selling this big dream, and a lot of people liked him. Now, the Royal Navy of Denmark, on the other hand, not impressed. They actually knew about the submarine long time ago, the Nautilus, when it was being built, and they asked him, hey, since you're doing this in Denmark and like something happens to you, we're gonna be looking for you. Can we just see the plans, like the floor plans of your sub? I mean, legally we can't stop you from building the sub. We just want to like give our input, give some help if you want it. They basically took one look at it and was like, that thing is gonna sink one day, and we're gonna be doing search and rescue. They didn't say it to him, but they were all thinking it. They all felt like the submarine was way too heavy.
Why didn't you say it
was
to
not
him?
built well. And when the
Coulda given
submarine finally
input.
went missing in 2017, some of the Royal Navy commanders
Don't know
thought,
what to
oh my
tell
god,
you.
it finally happened. They didn't even seem surprised. I mean, yeah, they were worried, but maybe not surprised. So they gather their teams and they start searching. And remember, they were reported missing by Kim's boyfriend at 2:30, the early morning of August 11th, 2017. About 8 hours into the search, the sun comes up, and a submarine was spotted from a nearby lighthouse in Crew Bay. This is like the south area of Copenhagen, and the submarine was there. It's just floating, like bobbing around in the water, and there's a man standing in the tower above the water, like the tower of the submarine, and he's able to make radio contact with the Navy, and he told him, hey, everything's fine, everyone on the boat is fine, we're all good, we're just having some technical issues, and that's why we went missing. The Navy is like, oh, okay, thank God, but like, wow, this guy is really something. But once they get word that he's safe and he's being picked up by a fisherman, most of the naval commanders were told to go report on a new task. Like, don't be wasting your energy on this. We've got bigger things going on. So a lot of them are packing their bags, and they start getting bombarded with people radioing in and calling them.
Okay.
The sub is sinking, the sub is sinking, the sub is sinking.
What?
Okay, like just 2 seconds ago, quite literally 2 seconds ago, it was floating. It was fine. Nothing was wrong. There was no urgency in Peter's voice. He wasn't saying, hey, the sub is sinking. You need to come rescue me. I'm on the tower. Like, I'm going to jump into the water soon. Nothing. What just happened in the span of like 1 to 2 minutes? The sub indeed...
Technical issues went terribly wrong in those 2 seconds.
So wrong. It's like, oh, we're fine. Never mind. We're sinking.
Nope. He got caught. And he's like, oh shit, I have to get rid of the evidence right now.
You think?
Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly, Silent Being. He wanted to make it disappear.
Interesting. Those are cool, interesting theories. I almost
Okay,
said cool theories, but that's not
I'll
the right
rewind.
word.
I'll go back slightly because Silent Being wants to see full speed of the sinking.
Okay.
The sub is sinking, the sub is sinking, the sub is sinking.
What?
Okay, like just 2 seconds ago, quite literally 2 seconds ago, it was floating. It was fine. Nothing was wrong. There was no urgency in Peter's voice. He wasn't saying, hey, the sub is sinking. You need to come rescue me. I'm on the tower. Like, I'm going to jump into the water soon. Nothing. What just happened in the span of like 1 to 2 minutes? The sub indeed was sinking. Madsen jumped into the water. He was rescued by fishermen, brought to the harbor, and there were journalists, media waiting for him there because this story had been a new emerging hot current event news, and they're all asking like, are you okay, Peter? Are you okay? And he's giving them the thumbs up. But the Navy is watching and they're like, something's not right.
Where's the girl?
Something is not right about this. They said submarines do not sink like that.
What?
Like, maybe if you're in the water, but not when you're not submerged. Submarines just don't. He could have saved his sub. The way his sub sank, it was very slow. It was very weird. There was no accident. There was no impact. There was nothing.
So what does that even mean? Like,
they're saying, we know subs. If there's been a submarine that's been going successfully and being submerged, it doesn't just randomly sink on you, especially when you're not submerged, when half of it is above water.
Got it.
It's just really bizarre. Maybe if it's the first time you're testing this sub, or if the sub had made impact with something, or if there was even with an engine failure, it probably wouldn't sink. So they're like, why did it sink? It's just really weird. I mean, he would have tried to save his sub, right? This guy is known for his submarine, his love for the Nautilus. I mean, come on. And someone is still missing because Kim Vol would not make it out of that submarine by the time that it sank. So where is the journalist? Other Navy officers also raised their eyebrows. They said the way that the sub looked like it was sinking, it just looked like it was diving. So the way that... Okay, if a submarine was to sink from above water, it looks very different from a submarine that's going on a mission and being submerged. It looks like it was just going on a mission. It looks like someone had autopiloted it to be submerged and then was like, oh my God, it's sinking, and jumped.
Got it.
It wasn't like tilting to one side. There was none of that. It's just like, okay.
So he's a bad actress and he planned poorly. That's what I'm hearing. Actor, and he planned poorly. Also, is nobody looking for her? Do they not know that she's missing?
They know that she's missing because the boyfriend called, and he called the Coast Guard.
I feel like there should be more concern going on, and there's not enough concern just yet. I feel like there should have been more concern. Like, hey, where is she? Why did she not jump out with you? You know, that sort of thing.
Probably going to be questioning.
I'm jumping the gun, I guess.
You are, but it's okay.
This is really bizarre. It looks like it's working fine. Now, the first thing that you would do, if you are a sub owner and this is your baby, your pride and joy, I mean, what you're known for, what would you do before you jump off that sub into the water if it's sinking?
I don't know. Try to save it? I don't know.
You close the hatch.
Oh, yeah, because you don't want it to...
fill with water.
Yeah.
So the hatch is like in the tower that you go down. It's like this giant steel plate. You close it and no water can leak in because it's a submersible, right? So you close the hatch. he doesn't close the hatch. And this guy has created 3 submarines. He didn't just buy
Very
them.
sus.
He built them.
Wait, how did they know they saw it?
Yeah.
What?
There's a bunch of people around. There's a lighthouse nearby. Like, they saw it.
Did
He
they
did
ask
not.
where's the other girl?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're going to get to that.
Oh,
So
good.
Madsen, this
'Cause
inventor,
I've been
maker,
waiting.
quote, genius, left the hatch open, letting water flow into the submarine. The Navy commanders took one look at that, and they believed that he sunk it in.
No, that is really weird.
Right?
Like, that's like sus. Like, if they're the Navy's got to be going.
Also,
What you
like,
hiding, bro?
if it is sinking and you make it out and you don't close the hatch, but you want to make the whole like, oh no, she's still in the submarine, you know, and whatnot. I don't know how to put the words in what I am trying to say, but like, isn't it sus if you don't attempt to close the hatch? If you're saying, oh no, I couldn't save her, she's still stuck in the submarine, you know, sort of thing. He's not saying that just yet.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. He's already acting like she's dead, which she probably is, but you know, they
Considering
don't
she's
know
dismembered,
that.
yeah, she's dead.
Yeah. Well, but they don't know that. You know what I mean?
He sunk it intentionally. They said, you only leave the hatch open when you want to cover something up. But more importantly, where is Kim Val? And why is Peter Madsen not frantically talking about her or looking for her? So they walked over to the cops that were at the harbor, and the Navy commander said, listen, we're from the Navy. We can't really arrest people. And in my opinion, there's something wrong here. Like, you need to get to the bottom of it. I think you need to arrest this guy. They said that you have a situation where a submarine sinks, 2 people were missing, and only 1 comes out. This is not right. When he was first asked about where Kim Val was, he said, oh, she's fine. I dropped her off the night before at around 10:30 p.m. close to the harbor where she lived. He even listed the specific harbor that he dropped her off. They asked him, well, how do you know Kim? He stated, oh, I don't really know much about her other than that she was a journalist for Wired doing a piece on me. And it's not like I do background checks when a journalist calls and says, can I interview you? And it looked like he just really wanted to go home. But the police, they had other plans. The whole thing is not adding up. If you dropped Kim off...
Yeah, they're not even checking the submarine yet.
No, they're not even checking. Well, they can't because there's water in the submarine. You gotta get divers. You gotta get divers now.
How many killers have said, oh yeah, I just dropped her off, you know?
Like
I saw
yesterday.
her.
Yesterday.
I know, I dropped her off. It would have been fine.
Police, they
The
had
Navy
other
does
plans.
have...
Oh, sorry.
The Navy does have trained divers.
Yeah.
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 The whole thing is not adding up. If you dropped Kim off, why would she not...
It's so nice. The Navy, the Coast Guard, actually doing what the Navy and the Coast Guard do.
Right? Like, the
See?
last episode we
see?
did, that did not happen.
You see South Korea? The Copenhagen Coast Guard? How they're doing their job, how Denmark is like, and this is just one lady. This is just one lady, not 300 little kids. I know they
Right?
weren't little kids, they were teenagers, but still 300 kids, okay?
Yes.
Very demure, very mindful.
Very considerate of everybody else on the boat. Although technically they don't know that she's on the boat, but
Yeah.
but they're just suspicious of her being on the ship, not a boat.
Yes.
Ship, submarine. Words, Micah, Monty, submarines.
Okay.
Okay.
And what a coincidence that you guys were out together, both go missing, but it was not together. Everything felt very off. And while the cops are escorting Madsen to the car to arrest him, there are reporters just hurling questions at him. And the way he responds also makes people just kind of perk up in their chairs. They're chasing him and they're asking him, what happened? What happened? And he said, I'm fine. I'm a little sad. Seeing the Nautilus go down was extreme. He told reporters that the Nautilus had sunk. How? Valve failure. Ballast failure. His biographer, Thomas, the one that he worked closely with, he saw this on TV. And it was just like something was itching at him. Even in the event of failure, Peter is known to be poetic. It's all about image for Peter. He would have said, this is what the biographer who worked so closely with him said. He would have said something along the lines of, this was the crown jewel of my work, and now it's at the bottom of the sea. But this is the way it is. This is how you learn, grow, and experience the glory of such things. But instead, he looks like, it's on valve failure. He looks kind of like he doesn't want to communicate. The whole demeanor it just wasn't right.
So even he's
And
acting
Peter
sus.
Madsen is used to failure because
Yep. And
Like
his
even his
biographer's going
acting
like,
is acting sus.
his biographer's like, the fuck are you saying, dude?
when you're creating rockets and submarines, you're gonna fail, you know? And every single time, he's always been poetic. He was also asked.
Okay. I think at least most everybody, we know who the Wright brothers are. They're the ones who basically invented the airplane.
Yes.
They failed so many times trying to get trying to get something up in the air. It happens. But they didn't give up. Exactly. They invented the first working airplane. But they didn't give up. They kept going and they invented the airplane.
Bontai, Bontai, we do not play with yarn. Leave it alone. You're not a knitter.
Oh God.
Or a crocheter.
Bontai. Or a cat.
Or a cat. Sorry.
Anyway, all I'm saying is the Wright brothers saw planes. He's a cat dog. Oh. All I'm saying is that the Wright brothers saw plenty of attempts go down. They kept trying. This
Yes.
guy is covering something up.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which, of course, we know that. but
We
they didn't
know that.
The Navy knew it.
Yes.
Him and he stated, there was no one on board but me. No one else on board? No one. So he was taken to the police station and questioned, and get this, when he's talking about his sub sinking, he would go off on these overly technical tangents that the police clearly could not debunk or couldn't even question him on because they don't know anything about subs, they don't know the jargon, but when it came to Kim, he had very little to say. Even the way he just dropped her off, it was very curt. The way that he described it is very short, and the investigators stated, in terms of shock, either someone remembers everything or they remember nothing. That's how shock works. But Peter remembered everything about the submarine sinking and remembered nothing about Kim. It is inconsistent. Nobody saw it
Interesting.
then, though. But in the footage of him being asked all of these questions, in the footage of him coming to the dock after the sub sank, the truth is right there. Because there, on the left side of his nose, is a little bit of Kim's blood.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the media was told that Madsen reported to dropping Kim off earlier that night. And so everyone believes that she had gotten off the submarine and something bad happened to her. That's how much everyone just generally thought that Madsen was a good character. But even that didn't make the most statistical sense because in places like Denmark, it is very, very rare to get murdered or kidnapped. And Copenhagen is actually considered one of the safest cities in the entire world. Now, nobody is saying that bad things cannot happen to you in places like this, but what are the odds that something...
Okay. But in a traumatic situation, the events leading up to the situation and the events after can be considered part of the same thing.
Right.
So so it would have, the situation would have started when he got her on the sub to the part where it sunk. That's what they would be questioning about. Because Silent Being goes, well, to be fair, she was dropped off. If she was dropped off first, it wouldn't be included in the shop. So what they're saying is either he would have remembered every detail of like the last 24 hours, or he would not remember any of it. Is what at least what I'm getting from it. So
Also, he could have told the police that he was just drunk the night before, you know, but he didn't have a reason for why he didn't remember anything about the night before with the girl. with the reporter. You know, there was no like reason or evidentiary reason as to why he wouldn't remember her, but remembers everything about the flooding. I get the sinking. That's what I
Correct.
meant.
Correct.
It's that something happens to her in Copenhagen and then his sub sinks right after, and it's just, what are the odds? When Kim's friends and fellow journalists heard the news of her disappearance, they were shocked, but their journalist brains went into overdrive. None of it made sense. There weren't enough.
They're all journalists.
Every single one of them.
Not a single one of them is going to believe that he dropped her off and she just vanished.
Exactly.
They're going to investigate.
Because they're
They're
all
gonna be-
journalists.
Exactly, they're going to be journalists. This was not a well thought out crime.
No.
I
No.
don't think it was
Well, I
premeditated
could-
necessarily.
Like I said, it is not a well thought out crime originally, because you don't just like go down in a submarine, both of you, and then come up with only one of you. Like, it's already
No.
suspicious. It's already a poor
Yes.
place for a crime to
And
be
it's
committed.
like that if you did drop her off, how come nobody's seen her since? You were
Yes.
literally the last person to see her.
Yes, exactly.
Facts, and the facts weren't adding up. There wasn't enough details about her disappearance. And they said, what do you mean she's missing? She's been to North Korea. I mean, she's been to some shady places. For her to go missing interviewing this guy is a bit weird. The police started to follow the lead Madsen gave, and they went to the harbor that he stated that he dropped Kim off, right? And they're trying to figure out, was Kim seen meeting someone else? Was she picked up by someone? Which direction did she walk off to? Thankfully, there was a bar nearby that had extensive CCTV range of the harbor, and they combed through the footage. Nobody that looked like Kim had gotten to the harbor that night. On top of that, there were no eyewitnesses of Kim that night, which is huge. She was all over the news in Denmark at this point. I mean, this was like the biggest story of that time.
Okay, so for instance, there was a weatherman. He was on one of our news stations. Actually, he might still be a weatherman. I'm not really sure, but he wears the bow tie.
I don't watch enough weathermen to know which
Okay,
one wears a
okay.
bow tie.
Well, actually, I've seen him in person one time at a thing when I was a little girl. But again,
I wouldn't have known if I
okay,
saw a weatherman. I'm sorry, I don't watch the news.
that's fair enough. But if there is somebody who watches the news every single day, you know, they watch the weather report, they recognize the names, the faces of the reporters,
Yes.
and they see that guy, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's Bow Tie Weatherman.
Yes.
You know, and it'll be like, oh my god, that's what's his face.
Yes.
You know, there I can also think of a Latino weather person that we had for Channel 8. Not
Wouldn't
a weather
know.
person, she was just a reporter.
Also
But I
wouldn't know.
remember her, I don't know if she's still reporting, but she was one that I grew up with. Anyway, if you are watching the news on a regular basis, you begin to recognize them. So I understand where she's coming from, saying she's on the news all the time. She's a face that people would recognize.
Oh no, I
Small
would understand that. It's
you
a
know.
local celebrity, you know.
Exactly. And so, like, if she had been dropped off, people would have known it.
People would have seen her.
Absolutely.
I mean, surely someone would have come forward if they saw her. The search for Kim continues, but instead of looking near the harbor, now the authorities kind of start searching in the waters. Their concern was, what if Kim is still in the sub? There could be an air pocket and she could still be alive and we have to get her. The Navy...
Oh, we know a few things about air pockets.
That's sad that they're looking for her alive and we know better.
We do, but At least they're looking.
At least they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. Also, the way I pause this.
Yes.
Divers down, and much of the sub was flooded with water since the hatch was left open by Madsen deliberately. And they start going to all the windows, peering in. There were no survivors that they could see. Additionally, it did not seem feasible or safe for them to go inside.
What?
So, just to make the timeline more clear, August 10th, that night, August 10th, like 7:30, they get onto the sub. That morning, August 11th, Madsen is found and the submarine sinks. Not a single trace of Kim. The very next day, August 12th, Madsen is arrested and he appears in court. And this is like a preliminary hearing. He's not even technically really charged. His story wasn't adding up. There were just pretty big holes in his story, so it didn't make sense. August 13th, the authorities start lifting the submarine out of the water. Their plan was to get one of those giant, almost like cargo ships, like Navy ships, lift the sub up with these giant cranes that are on the ship and hope that it won't snap in half, bring it to the harbor where they would drain the water, I think like 9,000 gallons of water, and start searching the inside. That was the first real evidence that their suspicions were not unfounded. Kim was not in the submarine, but everything was a mess. Authorities reported finding what looked like pieces of flesh in the boat, in the sub.
Interesting.
And there was still some water that didn't fully drain, and it had come up to their blue suits. They touched it, and when they got out, one of the naval commanders, they just had this weird feeling. And they sniffed it. It smelled very strongly of blood. And yes, it's a steel submarine, and some people think that blood has a metallic scent, which it does. But the naval commander is saying, no, when you're talking about blood in...
It's because we have iron in our blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can have a very coppery scent.
Water
Yes.
that's been kind of diluted in water, it's a very specific smell. And we know that smell. They also found her jacket still in the submarine, which, why would anyone leave that? If she had been brought ashore to any harbor, right? Not that one, because clearly there's no footage of her there, but any harbor, she would have taken her things with her. She is not a careless woman. Why would she leave her jacket? She had like tickets, train tickets in the jacket still that needed to be used. Why would she do that? But it still doesn't get authorities closer to finding Kim. And right now, the whole world seemed to be talking about this incident like they were the Titan. Was this a rescue mission, or is it going to be a recovery mission? What's going on?
I don't
Kim's parents
think
came
they
out
were
to state that
looking
they were
for a
heartbroken
rescue
over what was
mission
going on.
because he left the
And this-
hatch open. But, you know, there is the possibility of that pocket, that air pocket. So I think that was just like a diluted hope.
But they would have
almost.
found her now
Yeah.
if there was
Yeah.
an air pocket. But
Yeah, and I get that they're not thinking that, like, it's murder or anything like that, but at the same time, they didn't just start investigating for no reason, you know?
no, they obviously they know that something is not adding up here.
Yeah.
For all they know, he could be covering up a terrible accident.
Yes, and that could be something that happened. I can understand them being like, hey, but even the Coast Guard was like, this is sus, this is strange, and you need to arrest him. And they wouldn't say arrest him for like no reason, you know?
No, they're like, we gotta find out where this girl is.
Yes.
They, you know.
And I quote, Kim has worked in many dangerous places as her work as a journalist, and there have been many times we were worried about her. That something could have happened in Copenhagen, just a stone's throw away from her childhood home, is something we could have never imagined. Over 10 days later, everyone's worst fears were confirmed. There was a flurry of police activity near the shore, which is not normal in Copenhagen. Media, civilians, everyone waited for a press conference, and everyone's thinking the same thing, but they didn't want to say it out loud. They believed that they found her body, but it was so much worse.
I mean, technically, they did, or at least most of it.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what part they found.
Parts of it.
A woman's torso.
Torso.
Without her legs, without her arms, and without her head. Just a torso.
That's so sad.
It was clearly from manual dismemberment from another human and not ocean life. Authorities stated they do need to do DNA testing, but this is not really common in Copenhagen, so people thought, what are the odds it's not her? The results would show that it was in fact Kim Wall's torso. And this changed everything, including Peter Madsen's story. Peter Madsen said, you know what, you're right, I didn't drop Kim off. I was too nervous to tell you guys the truth from the get-go. According to his news story, he was opening up the hatch on the sub, which you would imagine is very, very heavy because you can't let any of that water come in when you're completely submerged. It's like this giant bolted steel plate, and then you gotta push it open so that you can get out once you're above water.
Right.
He had to hold it up so that they could get through the hatch and get out. But he lost his grip, and he said this giant steel hatch came crashing down on Kim as she was trying to leave the tower.
So
he
you
hit
just
her in the head,
decided
knocked
to
her out, she fell
dismember
down,
her?
and she was dead.
Wait, this is when
Question
they're
mark?
trying to leave?
I'm sorry, what?
Like, that doesn't make any sense. Just because it would have come crashing down on her head does not explain how she ended up a torso.
He
Washing
panicked and
ashore.
he tried to do it. I don't think it washed ashore. They found it in the sub.
Oh, did they find it in the sub? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I thought they found it on shore, but whatever. It still doesn't explain.
Oh, it was on the shore. It did wash ashore.
Okay.
Okay, so you remember the honeymoon killer?
No.
I did the podcast.
Oh,
Chrome
the
Dome.
couple killer, Chrome Dome.
Yeah, the
okay.
couple
That's
killer.
all you had to say was
So
Chrome
you
Dome.
remember he ended up with a severe head injury when something fell on him on the ship,
Yes.
when a door basically closed on him.
Yeah.
Similar thing.
No,
except
no.
He survived.
He's saying that he opened it. He opened the door, lost grip of the hatch on the door, and it shut on top of her head,
Yes, killing her.
thus killing her.
And he panicked and began to dismember her for God
Exactly.
only knows
That
what
doesn't
reason.
make any sense.
Of course it doesn't.
Okay.
But dismembering a corpse is going to get you a lot less time than murder.
Yeah, that's true too.
Not okay.
Yeah.
What?
So he said he knew it. He was so panicked. He felt awful, just horrible. And as someone who has been at sea for a while, he stated, he didn't know what else to do but give her a funeral at sea. So he threw her body overboard.
Oh, so then in that case, it's also, oh, well, obviously fish ate her head and limbs.
Sure. Yeah, because that makes logical sense.
Throwing her overboard. Yeah, throw her overboard. Give her a burial at sea. That makes so much
And then
sense.
don't tell her friends and family that she died?
His story conveniently leaves out the part that she was dismembered and the fact that her torso showed evidence of torture. There were markings on her torso that looked like inflicted wounds, torture wounds, as well as many stab wounds on her private areas were also found.
Wow.
So the authorities did not believe him, and it was scary that a
Okay, so schnickshally motivated?
Yeah, probably. More likely. Yes. 100%.
and it was scary that a killer could just stare them in the eyes and lie like that. I mean, to think that they would just believe it and send him home, like they had no idea what kind of monster they were working with. So they were determined to prove it. In order to build a case against him, they would have to explain how Kim died. Otherwise, a court would have a very hard time convicting him of murder. And the best way to prove it is to find Kim's body. Finding her head would be crucial in closure for families, but also for justice. If investigators could prove that she had no fractures or blunt force trauma to the head, his entire story would be debunked. But finding parts of her body in Crew Bay, nearly impossible. They said it's the equivalent of, do you know how big a football field is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about 10 football fields. Someone flies over in a helicopter and drops a quarter. Go look for that quarter. Yeah, that's how hard it was. And every day was even harder because the body parts would move because of the water current. So they had to bring in an oceanographer who was at his whole life. All he did was study how things move in water. He would have to map out, okay, today we have to search this area because if there was anything dropped at this area, it would have moved to this area. But then if it was dropped at this area, it would move to this. It was so complicated. And on top of that, let me explain. If you were in this giant room, not this room is not giant, but like if you were in a giant room, you could see 10 feet ahead, 20 feet ahead if there's nothing blocking your field of vision. You could probably see the end of a stadium or a giant ballroom. In the water, you see like a book's length away.
That makes sense.
Or at least this water. That's all you see. The rest is murky. So you can't just go in there and scan an area with your eyes and then be like, okay, like I scanned 100 feet. It's huge. It's looking for a tiny, tiny piece in a giant ocean. October 6th, 56 days of search, 50 divers a day. There are about 3,500 dive times recorded, 200 acres of area covered, with the calculation of water movement. In the end, the police found Kim's legs and her severed head.
No way.
Yeah, and it showed that she had no traces of blunt force trauma or fractures. Peter's second story was a lie.
No. Really?
And it was clear, with the evidence of the stab wounds, the prosecutors believed he took Kim down into the sub, trapped her in there, isolated her from the world, basically buried her with her own killer, and sadistically tortured her, killed her, and dismembered her. All because she was a woman doing her job. And before you say, well, it could happen to a man, but it didn't. Peter did not ask any men to come into the sub alone. But he did that week ask many women. It seems like he just wanted to kill any woman that week. The first woman that would be alone in the sub with him was the one that he was going to kill. He asked multiple friends, multiple acquaintances, do you want to go into the sub? Some of these friends...
Okay, so maybe it was premeditated.
It sounds very premeditated.
It was premeditated as in, I want to commit murder, not I'm going to murder this woman.
Yeah, it didn't matter which woman. It just had to be a woman.
Yes, it is stupid, but...
It is stupid, but that
Here we are.
What... Exactly, that's what happened. Here we are.
Asked, oh yeah, great, sure, can I bring my kids? And he said no. And that friend said that was really weird because Peter usually is known for wanting a ton of people around him. He loved big gatherings, especially the sub. Like, he loved taking people down into the sub. So for him to refuse, it felt really off. So she said, maybe not. Like, I gotta watch the kids, so I can't go.
So it sounds like he's like, I just want to know what it feels like to kill someone.
Yeah.
I want to know
like
what
one of those
kill
moments.
A woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know what it is like to kill a woman. I don't care which woman. It's just whatever woman I can get down.
Yeah, basically. Hello?
Hi.
Now, the police searched through Peter's phone and his computer, which, side note, Peter really did not want to give them access to his computer. He kept screaming that he had trade and business secrets on there that the police were trying to steal. It was a huge ordeal, but they had a forensic expert try and get all the data from his devices. And the day that he got on the submarine with Kim, he was Googling girl beheading and the word agony. It was premeditated. He did it rationally, intentionally, to fulfill some vile sexual fantasy that he had. His computer revealed a plethora of evidence. I mean, just film upon film of videos of women being beheaded, burned alive, killed, tortured. These are illegal, by the way.
Yeah.
Some clips of these videos were played for the courts, and it was really, really bad. He was watching these videos 24 hours before he went out into that sub with Kim. He was watching.
Ew.
So yeah, this was him filling some vile fantasy.
Ew. Yeah, definitely. Ew.
Definitely. So this was definitely premeditated.
Yeah.
So this was not just I'm letting an intrusive thought get the better of me in this moment. This was completely premeditated.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know who she is, but I'm going to kill
it's
some
just
woman.
Fascinating because, like, how did we get here? You know, from the dude who went up in space. You know?
Yeah. As Silent King says, I wonder what triggered it that specific week.
Exactly. That's what I was wondering. Like, did we build a sub with this intention of taking a woman down and killing her? Or was this something that just, like, came to him and then he couldn't get it out of his head? How far back did the planning go? Is my question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did not have that fantasy just starting that week.
Yeah, no, he only
Go on.
just recently started asking people that week to go out to the sub with
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
That is something that has been on his mind for a really long time. But no, I do want to know what the trigger is, because there's always a trigger.
Yes. Like, he's smart
Definite-
enough to know that he's throwing his life away. So why?
Did his mother die?
Yeah.
Did his mother die? Did a girlfriend break up with him? Did a woman humiliate him?
This is the question.
Because it could have been any one of those sort of things. Like, he might have went on a date with a woman and she humiliated him, or he even asked somebody out and she said no.
Yeah.
No, you're right. There is always a turning point. There's always something that triggers it. Like with Ted Bundy, it was when the girl that he had a crush on turned him down.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his victims fit her profile and looked like her.
It's an interesting change because he went from this inspirational person to just this monster, you know?
Yes. And he definitely learned from his mom. Or not from his mom, from his dad, that women are inferior.
Yeah. But
that's definitely something.
oftentimes that doesn't turn to murder. So like when did he start planning it? You know?
Yeah. It could have been years. He could have had that fantasy for years.
Yes.
And but what triggered him to finally act on it? That's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping she'll explain.
Like that morning. Whether he was watching for satisfaction or to prepare himself or for both, it's unclear, but it was really bad. And if you guys don't know what a snuff film is, it's super legal. They basically depict real life murder or torture in a video. Like, it's not like Hollywood where things are CGI'd, it's real. And typically the victims are women. Now, he tries to convince everyone that his interns used his work computer at work and they're the ones watching this. You know, he's trying to bring, like, everyone down with him. Like, all these young people who had given so much of their youth, time, and energy to help him with his dreams, he's gonna try and tear them down. Thankfully, no one believed him, but one intern would later testify that the day before the murder, Peter was asking him, hey, do you want to see something cool? I found a website where you can look at unreleased crime scene photos of victims. And the intern was very terrified, but he still didn't think that it was that alarming. He didn't think that Peter would kill someone. He just thought it was very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, authorities believe the torture inflicted on Kim's body was done around the time of death, so either shortly before or shortly after. They cannot be certain, but they stated it was probably inflicted with a knife, sharpened screwdriver, ties, metal pipes, and a wood saw. And the biggest question people had was, why would you need a wood saw on a steel submarine? Unless you were doing something else. There were 37 markings on Kim's body indicating that he had made puncture wounds. So now Peter has a new story because her head has no evidence of trauma, and he's going to need one during trial. Trial starts, and he debuts his new little alibi, or new little story.
Okay.
She did not have blunt force trauma on the head because she actually died of carbon monoxide poisoning. He stated that she was down in the sub while he was trying to get the hatch to work because the hatch was stuck. So he's trying to lift it, pry it open, but since the engines were still running, somehow there was an issue and carbon monoxide was getting inside, and Kim died within 10.
Okay.
But you didn't die.
Well, no, because he was up. She was in the submarine, and he was up trying to get the hatch open.
Okay, but she still ended up dismembered.
Yeah, that doesn't explain that.
Yeah.
10 minutes. The reason that he didn't tell this truth, quote, from the beginning was because it took her 10 minutes to die, and he didn't want Kim's family and friends to be in pain knowing that it was not a quick death. So
Okay, so instead you don't tell the family where she is at all. And to be quite honest, with carbon monoxide, you go unconscious. According to Google, carbon monoxide poisoning is a very silent process. Basically, they're kind of flu-like symptoms,
Yeah.
and basically there's the carbon monoxide replaces the oxygen, and you basically get very tired
Yeah.
and you lose consciousness, and it is
Doesn't it take a really long time too?
it can take a while, but like you're basically unconscious for most of it,
Yeah.
which is why it's kind of called like a silent killer thing,
Yeah.
because it happens a lot of time while asleep,
Yeah.
or something, and so you're basically unconscious. It's almost like you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So you don't really know what is happening. As far as ways to die go, it's probably one of the more pleasant ones.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense for him to be like, yeah, she died of carbon monoxide. It was a long and painful death. But I told you the story of it getting hit in the head so that the family wouldn't know that she suffered, yet you turned around and dismembered her body and refused to tell the family where she was. Like, your logic
Because you
isn't logic-y.
don't want the family to suffer.
Yeah, yeah.
They found signs of torture. Like, why? How are you going to explain that away, dude?
Fish.
It makes no
Fish.
sense
That's
at all.
that's what he's hoping.
Fish.
Is that the fish did that to her. Because that makes total sense. You would think that they would be able to tell the difference between fish and a knife, you know? Or a
Absolutely.
screwdriver.
100%.
Story, but it just makes no sense. The prosecutors straight up told him then, well, why did you cut her up? He just stated very eerily, I had a big problem. What do you do with a big problem? You cut it into small pieces. He also stated he didn't see how it matters that he dismembered her body because she was already dead.
Wow.
You know, that's a
So
crime.
with all of this coming out, he's still sticking with his story that it was carbon monoxide.
Dude.
Sir, it's a crime.
Dude. You don't have to cover up an accident.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't.
You just go back and you're just like, oh my gosh. They could tell that she died from carbon monoxide poisoning. They'd be able to tell that.
Monoxide. Peter's biographer and those who used to be close to him said that Peter overestimates himself. He believes that he can convince people. I mean, he did it with submarines, he did it with rockets, and now he thinks that he can do it with murder.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Prosecutors heatedly told Peter, like, point blank in trial, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I guess that made Peter think about shifting gears in the trial. He starts trying to strike the hearts of his audience. He kept talking about his cats and how much he loved his cats and how he needed to go home to his cats. His cats depended on him. And everyone was like,
but he thinks cats are dumb, like his mother.
I'm sorry. Okay. I love cats as much as most people love cats. We have a lot of them, but if I went into court and was like, I need to go home to my cats need me. That's just such a silly argument. How about I need to go home to my mother needs me. I need to go home to my children.
He doesn't like his mother.
Yeah. I know he doesn't like his mother. But
my father needs me.
But like, cats are not going to pull at the heartstrings of people at all, you know? And the fact that this man has cats just is alerting to me as well, because I'm like, you did this to a woman, okay? You have no right to have a cat, a dog, an animal, a child, a person in your life.
Where is a vast majority of, especially serial people, do have a tendency to harm animals. There are also killers out there who have affinity for animals.
No, I
Or
understand that, but there's too many of them that, like, if you're willing to do that to human life, you what would you be willing to do to an animal's life? You know?
it's true. It's not about the cats. It's the fact that something depends on him and he's trying to play on that. It's just there are
It's
probably a lot of other things, and cats are kind of
like on the low end of, if that's the only thing that you have, like the only playing card you have to like pull, that's a very sad playing card, you know?
yes. It's giving me crazy old cat. It's giving me crazy cat lady,
Yeah.
but
And
not
I
being
love
a
me a
lady.
crazy cat lady.
I
You know?
am a crazy cat
You
lady.
are a crazy cat lady.
I wouldn't go into court to go. But I don't know what poor I don't know what poor Dante and Ollie and Binks are gonna do without me. Who's gonna take care of them? Nobody knows. Monty doesn't know how to feed them. She doesn't know. She just doesn't know the proper water to dry food ratio, and she doesn't know that you have to feed Ollie the gravies. But you can feed, and you can only give Dante the fancy feast pate.
Do you
It's only the chicken flavor.
What does this have to do with the case? It was so strange. It felt like he genuinely believed that his wants and his needs and his cats were more important than a person's life that he took. Like,
you know,
this guy
you
is
said
a
that way better
full-blown
than I did.
narcissist,
Thank
and it
you,
was starting to
Stephanie.
come out in court. In fact, his psychiatric evaluation was revealed in court, and it read, severe lack of empathy, remorse, and sense of guilt, relishes in watching violent videos. The psychiatrist also jotted down, personally deviant, narcissistic, unconcerned, lacking remorse, regret, and guilt. A few other things come out in court. Multiple women were called to testify against Madsen, and they all stated that he was very normal. They did not think that he had a proclivity to violence or aggression in any way. Many of them had met him at sex parties, like BDSM parties, which I know the media like tried to run with it, and they were like, "Oh my god, BDSM."
Guys, there's nothing wrong with that.
There really isn't, no.
Like, that can be a perfectly normal part of people's bedroom lives.
Yeah.
If that is something that they enjoy.
And there's nothing wrong with that. No. But
as long as it is done by two consenting adults.
Yeah. And, you know, I really hate it when the media runs with that. But I get that they're trying to taint his character to a certain extent, but you're also tainting the characters of the other people that participate in that activity, and that in itself feels kind of icky.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with it. They were all consenting adults at these parties, and on top of that, these women said that Peter never seemed aggressive. He always respected boundaries. He was a little weird. He would text women sometimes things like, "I'm just a perverted poly with a dream of taboo-free places where all adults in their right mind can teach each other to do whatever they want."
Like
Sick,
this member.
perhaps, but there's no cure. The women said otherwise he was very gentle. That's what they said. And I want to iterate that these women are not going into court questioning the validity of what happened to Kim. This is them telling the courts how shocked they were and how well this man hid his true intentions. These women were disgusted. They were not saying these things in defense of Peter Madsen, because at the same time, there were disgusting people online basically victim blaming Kim, saying that it was weird for her to go in the sub with someone she didn't know, forgetting that it's quite literally her job. Male and female journalists have to do this all the time.
I don't think there's a case for an insanity plea here.
No, I don't either.
I don't think there's a case for an insanity plea here.
And also, if a man who was a journalist went into a submarine alone and got killed, nobody would be saying, what was he doing going into that submarine alone? You know, it would be, but because she's a woman, what was she doing going in alone? You know, they would say, "Oh, he was just trying to do his job." Where the woman, it's like, well, what was she thinking going in by herself? You know, and that's
Yeah.
just societal thinking. You know,
Yeah. Silent Being, I don't even think there really was a plea for even temporary insanity.
no, he didn't come out behaving insane. You know, if he really
Yeah,
played it
no.
up, he could have played it up as carbon monoxide poisoning, but he would have had to have proven that he had carbon monoxide poisoning and that his actions while, you know, poisoned with whatever substance was beyond his capabilities, and he could have, you know, pled temporary insanity due to that, but he didn't even do that, you know.
But again, carbon monoxide makes you lose.
I know, it makes you
Even if
lose
it- even if you
unconsciousness.
got
I
it-
didn't say it would be a
Yeah,
good
but
plea.
if it had been, he had been mildly poisoned, it
Yeah.
was in his system and it was causing him to think irrationally.
Yeah.
But I just think he's not smart enough to have figured that out.
Which is funny because he built a rocket. You would think he'd be smart.
time, and typically the risks are higher, and they're higher for female journalists. So what do? Should we start telling women to stop being journalists, or should we start telling people to stop killing people?
That right there.
I think the answer is very clear. Other horrible people judged the fact that she wore a dress on the submarine. They judged her for not wearing long pants. They're
Okay.
like, why else would you wear a dress to a sub?
Wow.
Another netizen commented, the video of her leaving
she
in the
was
sub
wearing
gives
a
me the
dress
impression
that
that
day?
she's going on a date rather than a journalist on a mission. So I think these women were trying to show that every single woman out there, every single female reporter, every single reporter, no matter their gender, every single person who vaguely knew Peter would have gladly gotten in that sub that day.
Yeah.
So this is how unassuming he is. And that is so much more terrifying. Other women said, while he never did anything super alarming, he did have this weird energy about him. Some people said that he kind of viewed women as playthings more than human beings. They didn't really see a hatred for women, but, probably well hidden. These are just little things that they would pick up here and there. Oh, and side note, Peter is married. He was married in 2011, and he and his wife had an open marriage. Once he was arrested, his wife divorced him and never spoke publicly about this case ever again. Another
I'm
important
sorry.
message
I'm
came out
sorry.
during trial,
Pause.
where he
Pause.
had jokingly,
Pause.
texted-
Pause. 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 We
I
went
did,
into
and-
court wondering about who's going to feed the cat instead of being like, I have a wife. I'm a married man. I'm a wholesome man. Well, I'm sorry. We went about the cat and not your wife. I get that,
I
like, she
mean,
divorced
she-
you and was going to divorce you and all of that stuff, but that was her argument?
Sorry, she clearly gets custody of the cats.
She clearly gets custody of the cats. Your argument is null and void now,
I mean, clearly the wife could just take the cats.
right? Like, oh, okay. That's just
Ugh.
that's
Did
just a
one of his
weird thing to
friends
say.
that worked with him. And one of the women that he worked with jokingly texted him, Peter, you gotta send me a little death threat or something so I can get my work done faster. Like, I need some pressure. I'm working so slowly.
Wait,
And
I don't follow. What does that mean?
she's like, you need to scare me into working more. Because I'm like, we're moving so slowly. So, like, send me a death threat. Because technically, Peter's her boss.
Oh.
So, they were
This was
known.
before,
I've never
right?
asked my
But
boss
his
to give me a
messages,
death
again,
threat.
in the context, he's joking, yes. But it's
The wife left him after all this happened.
Yeah. After.
So the wife wasn't an instigator.
No.
And yes, it is a terrible idea to have your boss send you death threats.
to what it said that he did to Kim. He said, haha, okay, I will tie
Hang
you
on,
up
hang
in the
on, hang on,
Nautilus
hang on.
and pierce.
Oh.
So, there was
Hang on, hang on.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So, they were
This
known.
was before, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
But his messages, again, in the context, he's joking, yes. But it's eerily similar to what it said that he did to Kim. He said, haha, okay, I will tie you up in the Nautilus and pierce you with skewers. Then my knife will come out and I will look at your throat, looking for the artery. I have a murder plan. and it's going to be great pleasure.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was before. That was
That-
all before.
Yeah,
So that definitely shows that he had this fantasy for a really long time.
and that it was premeditated.
100%.
Yeah.
April 25th of 2018, after 11 days, the court reached a verdict, and Peter Madsen was sentenced to life in
It
prison.
is a confession.
After
Absolutely, that is a confession to planning.
serving 12 years in Denmark, you can apply for pardon. Average life sentences in Denmark, you typically serve 16 years.
Wow, what?
Yeah, so it's hard to say if he'll ever get out, but yeah. It still doesn't explain why. After he was sentenced, he had one final change in his story where he does admit to killing Kim.
Let's hear it.
He doesn't explain how he did it. He doesn't go into detail on any of that. He just makes it about himself.
Okay,
He
let's
did
hear
multiple phone interviews while he was in prison. And I'm going to read a lot of the quotes that he said, and it's really chilling.
it. Okay.
He said, "I didn't go around living a wonderful life and suddenly, bang, I got evil. Something made it happen. This is my confession. What the f happened? How can it be a mystery to you guys that good comes in a package with bad? There aren't heroes and bad guys. They're just humans. And under the right circumstances, under the right kind of pressure, under the right mistreatment, you can make people do just about every horrific thing to each other that you can think of." Okay, look, even now he's killed someone and he's trying to be this voice of teaching, this voice of reason and philosophy, and the one that is poetic about.
Even now he's killed somebody and he's removing himself or his accountability by this weird, like, fantasy, inspirational quote thing. You know? That even, that, See, we're removing accountability. That was not accountability. Not that I expected him to give accountability in any way, shape, or form. You know?
So that killer I was talking about earlier, who was also in Europe.
Chrome Dome?
No, not Chrome Dome.
The other one?
I'm Jack.
Jack Unterberger?
Yes. He went to jail in the 1970s for killing a woman.
Yeah.
However, while he was in jail, he wrote books. He became a published author in prison. And people were all like, "Oh my gosh, a man who writes like this has got to be
Innocent.
you know, innocent, not necessarily innocent, just reformed." So there was this huge thing, like the public outcry to let him out. So they did. And that is when he went on a killing spree in multiple European countries, even in California.
Yep.
And he followed the same MO of the murder that he had committed back in the 70s. And the cops were like suspicious of him, but they didn't have a way to prove it. And the FBI ended up coming in to help him. I might go into a little more detail on this one because it's a very interesting case. But again, this is,
just because they have pretty words does not mean they're reformed. It does not mean that they feel any sort of way with the words that they are saying. They just think it sounds pretty and think that that's what they're supposed to say.
Exactly.
About life, and it's just really agitating. He continues, "You're looking for an explanation. Why did this happen?" Peter said that
because your father was a bag,
and you
beat
are
your
a
mother.
bad person.
You learned that behavior. You had trauma. It created you to be a bad person.
I'm sorry. Yes. There are a lot of people that, you know, suffer abuse and then turn out to be like really awful people and deadbeat people and stuff like that. But just because you saw your dad
Well,
beat your mom
I know.
doesn't mean that equals up to dismemberment. I just don't understand how we got to that point.
Frustrated at his rockets not succeeding. He felt like he was no longer the sole center of attention, and it started to really mess with him. The way Peter says it is that he was being used. So remember how he started Copenhagen Suborbitals with a co-founder? Well, the co-founder allegedly came up to him and was like, hey, you can help build the rockets, but you can't be at the launches anymore. I don't think that this happened, but for whatever reason, there was drama and Peter was kicked out of Copenhagen Suborbitals. He started his own rocket company literally in the same lot, just like looking at Copenhagen Suborbitals every day he went into the workshop. And his own rocket company was not going well. And I think the problem was, you know, when he started Copenhagen Suborbitals, he's thinking, I'm going to get the glory, the fame. It's going to be about me and my rockets. But to build a rocket, you have to bring in a lot of knowledgeable people. And these knowledgeable people are not going to just say, yeah, boss, to everything you say, because you're building a freaking rocket. You need to do it right. So a lot of these people, when he would say something dumb, they'd be like, that's dumb. We cannot do that.
So narcissist.
Yeah.
Me.
Me.
Physically, we cannot do that. And he would get so irritated. People stated Peter could not cooperate with people. I mean, could not. He loved drama. He liked the feeling of being the only one that had input. He hated being ignored. If his input was ignored, he would get extremely aggressive and angry. And the more you ignore him, the more incensed he would get about creating drama. And sometimes he couldn't stand not being the smartest guy in the room. And when you're building a rocket, you're not going to be the smartest guy in the room.
No.
Peter's biographer
Pick
said,
a different
Peter
project.
lives in a world where there are winners and losers. And at this point in his life, he was losing, and he was losing big. So 2 weeks before the murder of Kim, he had a rocket launch that was prepared for his new company, and they had to cancel it because it wasn't doing well. For him, it wasn't his...
Okay.
Financial issues and
I don't know if it was financial issues, but the rocket launch was canceled.
Yeah.
He got kicked out of his other company. He's feeling low.
He's having a hard time.
So that's probably the trigger.
That's just such a...
all of this. It's so stupid, I know.
Yeah.
Like, he had the fantasy, but he wasn't acting on it. They were just fantasies, but all these triggered him into him just wanting to make it a reality because he was complete loss of control. And then this would be the ultimate control over someone's life.
Yeah.
It was never submarines. Peter's project was never rockets or the love of making things. Peter's project was Peter Madsen. That was his project. Just being known. Being this character. Being respected and in control.
Got it.
So whatever he could do to get that, it wasn't actually the subs or the rockets. So Peter will never talk about how much he regrets the crime or what he actually did. He just talks about how stressed out he was and how miserable he was and how he was pushed into killing someone. He also has this moment where he almost feels bad for himself, and he says, if somebody tells you that you're a narcissistic psychopath, the only way that you can make the verdict correct is to become that psychopath. I know you guys want your monster. I sense your hatred, but it doesn't make any difference. There is no closure to be found here.
That was sarcasm,
now, this is crazy, but October 20th of 2020, after
sarcasm.
30 months in prison...
Can't hear you.
I was chit-chatting, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Peter escaped.
I'm sorry. What? Peter, no! Stop! Come back!
We made a jailbreak!
Come back to prison!
Is he gonna get hit by a car? I want him hit by a car. Hit by a car!
Peter, stop! Come back! Don't escape prison!
Hit by a car! Man.
He managed to build a weapon in jail, threatened the guard to let him out, and he started making a run for it. It was a rather brief escape that ended with him sitting on the grass and sharpshooters surrounding him in Denmark. So again, this is
so sad.
He just keeps proving to be worse than imagined. And of course, the question is lingering, has he done this before? An officer on the case said, this is his
Escape?
personal opinion, not the official police opinion. He said, what happened is very rare that you commit a crime like that as your first violent crime. Abusive or sexual crimes might have come first, just maybe not caught. It said that they had been looking into connections between Madsen and any unsolved disappearances or unsolved violent assaults against women. So far, there are no concrete connections. There have also been talks that he's a serial killer. I mean, that's in the air, if he was or not, but many state that he would perfectly fit the profile.
Interesting.
Even in the Netflix doc, there's footage of him before the murder where he's trying to make his own movie, and he would get angry at work and he would say things like, I would like to kill someone with a spoon, and I would choose the person by chance. He then told the videographer that he was going to hack her to death, and she gasped, like, you're going to hack with an axe, like hack me to death? And he said, no, hug. You heard hack, I said hug. But that was definitely an
With a
unsettling
spoon.
moment in the doc. I think the case just devastated a lot of people around the world. The world lost another talented voice whose whole life mission was just to help others. But it's also another grim reminder that women are not safe doing their jobs. Kim once said to a friend, I only have questions about agency as a woman, and if we will ever be free. No matter what we do. Leaning towards no. Most female journalists said that they wouldn't have thought twice about going in that sub. That's just the job you have to do. You're not going into the sub with a known war criminal, just a man who built the sub. She was just doing her job, and she ran into a killer. And he truly is an evil person that felt like he could just do something to someone. And he's kind of like this, he thinks he's a main character villain. He wrote once, nothing is sacred in hell. No morals, no ethics. Only your own disgusting selfish ego. Give in to your anger. Use the knife. Hell is permeated with an evil that penetrates your head. He wrote, you need to choose between heaven and hell. And if you choose hell, a whole new world opens up. In his head, he's like the Hades, the god of hell. In his mind. But in reality, he is just a loser in jail now. He will be forgotten. Kim Vol will forever be remembered. Kim's family and friends created the Kim Vol Memorial Fund, and they help female journalists. Her mom said humanity needs more courageous women like Kim, women who have the endeavor to tell, give their voices to the weak, and make this planet a better place to live. Kim, we miss you.
Yes.
I'm going to link the fund in the description. And that is the case of the missing submarine. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments. Please be safe, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode.
I would say, in my opinion, he certainly did fit the profile of a possible serial killer.
He did, actually.
I don't know if he actually was one, but I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't committed some sort of grapey acts.
Mm-hmm. Or some sort of other acts before, murder.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He's definitely done other things, because there's always a build-up.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, it's voyeurism. In other cases, it's grape.
It would be very interesting if that wasn't the case here, but it's very rarely not the case, in most true crimes.
And in a lot of people who have that psychological makeup and that they commit these kinds of crimes, there's usually other things.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a very interesting case because he's very fascinating, but like in an icky way. And I can say I have seen a lot of true crime documentaries. Missy and I had a true crime podcast for a little while. And honestly, I have never, and I can say this with absolute certainty, never wanted one of the killers to just stop talking. Like, he talks so prettily that I'm like, ew. Like, he makes me cringe. And like, I know that's such a silly thing because you get a lot of other serial killers that will, or other killers, not even serial killers, that say vulgar things or do vulgar things or speak in a vulgar way. And I'm like, okay, Yeah, that's on point. That's expected is what I'm saying.
That tracks with you. That tracks with you.
Yeah, but he
I'm
speaks in such a way that it's like,
Ew, could you
honestly,
stop talking,
just stop
please?
talking. Just, you're so cringe. Stop it. You,
I
who do
will
you
tell
think
you
you
though.
are, trying to be an inspiration to other killers out there? Like, that's the only way I can think that he meant for
Sir,
that to be taken.
Sir, you are not Ed Kemper.
Yeah. It's just ew. I mean, like, they're all ew, but this one just, like, almost gave me a
Ew.
visceral reaction. And it's been a long time since I've had a visceral reaction to another killer's speech, you know?
That is true. That is very true. I mean, because, like, again, I have had a fascination with true crime since, like, my late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, I like to feel that
Um,
you and I are very desensitized to these sorts of things. And that's
Yeah.
sad, but I was not expecting, like, to just, like, want to chop his tongue off or something like that. You
Like,
know, like, in
Okay,
a
but when she was quoting him, I'm over here going like, I'm getting the ick.
exactly.
And like, I have heard some pretty out there things by other killers.
Pretty horrible ways of speech, you know?
Yeah, but like, honestly, gross. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely gross.
Yeah.
And I mean, like,
And I just don't have, like, the words to articulate why it is gross. It feels
just
wrong.
has
Like,
the
I
ick.
mean, it should feel wrong. It is wrong. All of it should feel wrong. It just feels wronger than, like, how you expect a killer to talk, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, we've seen interviews with John Wayne Gacy
Yes.
and him talking about things, and Ted Bundy talking about
Ed
things.
Kemper,
And these are
you know?
Ed Kemper. And
I mean, Ed
Kemper is
Kemper
such a,
likes to talk.
he does. He actually did books on tape
Yeah.
for a while. He did audiobooks. Ed Kemper was actually smart enough to understand why he did things.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, dude, I do not have the words to articulate it, because it's just, like, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's just
the
cringe. It's ick. It's like, but like, you
it's ick.
should get cringed and ick whenever somebody really awful is talking about a really awful topic, you know?
Yes.
It's
Most
just been
serial
a
killers
while
do hold
since
a passion.
Yeah, it's just been a while since I've had that kind of reaction.
Good
So
to know that we're not so desensitized.
it's good to know that we aren't as desensitized. And I feel like so bad for the journalist, because she had her whole, I mean, like, most people have their whole life together, but she had her whole life together. Like, at 30, she had been doing everything, you know? Like,
Not just together, but she had her whole life ahead of her.
Yes, she had her whole life ahead of her. She was going to go to China. And that's just, you know, that's taken away now, and that's so sad.
Ruined her parents' lives, her boyfriend, fiance, husband, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they were going to go to China together. They were going to build a life there. They had this amazing job opportunity.
And he just took it away.
She could have gotten so many awards. She could have done so many things, told so many stories. And her voice just got silent because this guy had a fantasy, and because this guy felt inferior.
And this guy took advantage of the fact that she was doing her job.
Exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what it was. She was there not to be his victim. She was there to report on him and give him good press, you know? Or bad press, who
Exactly.
knows? But press nonetheless. Yeah.
And that is so sad.
All right. Well, that was a
Well-
submarine went missing and body parts were found a week later in the water by Rotten Mango. We hope you enjoyed it, or didn't enjoy it. I don't know how to say.
I hope you appreciated our
commentary.
reactions and our commentary.
And I hope you appreciated all the effort that Stephanie So put into these videos, because honestly, they're amazing.
amazing.
These videos are amazing.
It's
So,
absolutely amazing.
We'll see you guys. Oh, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm Missy, but you go.
We'll see you guys for the next one.
Oh, I'm Missy.
I'm Monty. Bye.
Bye.